Hello everyone, Ace here, and today let's talk about how the UK government is now attempting to directly control YouTube's algorithms, at least in the UK. This is proposed to be in the form of essentially requiring YouTube by law to only promote, or at the very least, primarily promote above all others, state-approved videos and channels. Naturally, these sources are going to be primarily news channel sources or government channel sources, the BBC being a prominent example of both. This isn't all that surprising for a number of reasons. For a start, YouTube themselves have been promoting news channels for a while of their own initiative, supposedly at least. A government deciding to make this into law effectively, and forcing them to do this to an even more extreme degree, is, let's be honest, within that same direction of travel. Additionally, it is not a surprise that the UK government themselves are the ones trying to do this. Even ignoring the particular excesses of the Keir Starmer regime, the UK government can, for a few decades now, be reasonably described as an authoritarian police state that routinely tramples over freedom of speech. And even outside of the UK, it has been a running theme among Western nations to try to further control the internet, as seen with the various ID verification laws for internet use that are sold to us with the wrapping of protecting the kids by the very same governments that have went out of their way to protect the child predators who have violated our children on a mass scale, be they on Epstein's Island or grooming gangs who have turned the UK into the new Nanking. Sadly, this news is not surprising in the least. One does have to wonder, however, just how severe the impact this change will be. Will it be enough to actually cause channels like Sargon of Akkad's The Lotus Eaters to fall by the wayside out of the sheer fact that they are not a state-approved news site? Even if they are, let's be honest, doing far more honest journalism than the BBC. This is a very distinct possibility, through absolutely zero fault of the Lotus Eaters, though they do have contingency plans in place to curb algorithmic changes being made to specifically work against them. It is also of note that these changes may very well impact channels outside of the UK. Tim Pool, for example, might have his various channels be absolutely throttled to oblivion, at least when it comes to the UK audience, all because his videos are not state approved by a government that he is not even beholden to. A government that the United States historically very famously rose up against and started shooting at until they went away. But yes, this is a situation where you could potentially argue that an American might have his free speech stymied by the British government specifically for daring to say something in the United States. One final piece of curiosity though, and rather obvious if you look at the thumbnail of this video as well as the image in the background, is the fact that this is so extreme that even YouTube is opposing it. YouTube, the company that was themselves doing this sort of thing years ago, is now not only against what the UK government is doing, but outright condemning it as an attack on free speech, as well as something that will hamper people's potential careers online. Now, this is incredibly rich, again, coming from YouTube, finally admitting that no, shadow banning people and throttling their content in the algorithm is actually, in fact, deleterious to their career prospects on the platform. I guess it's nice to see that even YouTube is willing to finally admit it, because the UK government has gone too far. But like I said, YouTube have themselves engaged in the practice for so long that it's actually surprising to see them oppose the practice now. Does this mean that YouTube is magically going to fix the algorithm and make it so that people that actually deserve views get those views? No. No, that's not what's going to happen. Not over this, anyways. Is this at the very least a step in the right direction? Perhaps even a low-key admission by YouTube of the horrific things that they have done to their own content creators, even if an unintended admission. Well, maybe. But they did also recently hide the dislike ratio even more so that even content creators can't see it anymore, which means we're now flying in the dark more or less on how our videos are doing unless you download the dislike button extension, which YouTube still tries its best to keep from working correctly. It's nice to see YouTube oppose what the UK government is doing, but it is still coming off as a bit two-faced.